Welcome to the Wild Physio podcast with your hosts, Andrew Wild and Chaz. How are you, mate?
Good man, how are you?
Very well. We're back at it. I think it's been probably about a month since we recorded a podcast. That's my bad. Obviously, I went to Japan for a bit of a snowboard, so apologies there.
Yeah, mate. You gotta enjoy some leisure sometimes.
Indeed, it was insane. There was so much snow. It was chest deep a couple of the days, so it was an unbelievable trip. Probably the best snow trip I've ever been on. So probably have to
Sick.
book next year.
I think I saw you using a snorkel, mate, when you're on the side.
You needed it. Some of the days it was insane. It was up to here. I could not get over it. It was just so much powder. We lucked out in terms of timing, but Japan just gets so much snow. Just ridiculous.
Yeah, cool.
So I'm gonna have to get online and start looking for next year's trip where I'm gonna go. So that's the third year in a row. I'm clearly obsessed. So next year probably be a goer.
Yeah. Look, I've never skied like before in my life for snow, and I've heard all good things, so I think I need to consider it.
Yeah, you have to. And it's also easier in a place like Japan to ski because the snow is much better. It's
Yeah.
the better way to do it rather than doing it in Australia because such a gamble in Australia in terms of how much snow you're going to get. So,
Mm,
and it's also icy and it's harder to really learn on ice. But yes, you should totally go. I'll hit you up next year's trip. I'll let you know.
love it. Very good.
So today's topic is supplements. Now, this is probably the one of the biggest requests that we get from a topic standpoint.
Hmm.
What supplements should one be using? And usually the answer from a dietitian is you don't need that many supplements.
Hmm.
And people focus on the wrong things when it comes to nutrition, and all they do is they look at a supplement and think they're immediately going to get healthier. Let's dive into what supplements do work, what are beneficial, and you've broken them up into three tiers.
Yeah,
Talk to us about that.
absolutely. So yeah, absolutely right. A lot of dietitians will say barely any. I mean, you definitely there's no secret there in terms of supplementation, and sometimes they don't do what the industry claims. And if they did, we'd be all lean, muscular, and energized, but we're not. So it shows it there. You have the jack guys online promoting some sort of supplement. They're probably doing everything right first. Otherwise, the whole population would look like that person selling that supplement. So we'll do three tiers. There's kind of sports related, given the context of physio and performance, but also cognition a little bit as well. And then I think a later podcast we can cover like general health sort of things in supplementation, but that'd be more clinical based in terms of longevity, correcting clinical conditions. So this one's very much performance based and kind of general well-being, I'd say. So tier one would start with whey protein. So, as most people or have probably heard before, it is just a convenient high protein source. So, it's derived from milk during cheese production and is about 10 to 13% leucine, which is the primary amino acid that triggers muscle protein synthesis. So, it's probably the most high quality whey protein, providing 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine per serve, which is the threshold needed to stimulate muscle growth needed. Um, and I guess it's not necessary. However, if your goal was to hit 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilo, which is the recommendations for like adequate protein synthesis throughout the day for performance recovery, etc., it can definitely help be an addition to the day. But there's no secret with having that compared to have steak or something else. It's animal quality protein source or have all nine essential amino acids, which we've covered before previously. And then I guess if comparing, and you guys probably heard this before, concentrate versus isolate. So concentrate being cheaper, slightly more lactose, and then isolate a bit more refined, lower lactose, slightly lower calories as well, generally leaner. But most people can tolerate concentrate, and it's much, much cheaper, especially given some brands really try and up the price on isolate. And there's also some great vegan options. I do appreciate there's some vegans or people that just don't want to have lactose at all. And I mean, depending on the brand, but True Protein have one that's really great protein, complete vegan protein source from pea protein and soy. So when you're looking at vegan proteins, you want to make sure it's a complete protein source and has a leucine content. No brand deal here, but I just know True Protein has a good vegan option.
Yeah, it's
Um,
really important for that to be talked about on this podcast is the leucine content of some of these proteins because you go to the supermarket at Coles or Woolworths and there's several proteins there that are quote unquote vegan or they're not a non-whey version and they have quite a low leucine content.
Hmm.
So talk to the listeners about why the leucine content is so important because that is one of the big things you should be looking for on the label when you are looking for a protein.
Yeah, so absolutely. Like I mentioned, like leucine is the most important amino acid component in protein. It helps drive the muscle protein synthesis. And you're looking at 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine per serve. So that's what you're looking at when you're looking in the label. And it will tell you if they don't have it on the label, they're not explicitly saying how much leucine. It obviously is underdosed.
Mm.
So you've got to go one that claims, the leucine content on there as well. And that's like we said, it's going to cover the muscle protein synthesis, which is the most important aspect when kind of consuming protein regularly throughout the day.
Yeah, the way I often put it is when you go to the gym and you start lifting weights, it turns the key on for muscle protein synthesis, and then the leucine content of the meal that you have after it kind of keeps the key on. So it's not the worst analogy that. So just be mindful if you are looking at proteins. There are some proteins out there that just have a really low leucine content, and that is not optimal.
Agreed. Yeah. Next one would be creatine monohydrate. Everyone's probably heard this before as well. I would say most researched, most effective, most boring, but reliable. So creatine increases phosphocreatine stores in muscle, which helps regenerate ATP. And your immediate energy currency is the ATP. So thus, more ATP generally means more reps. More reps equals more volume over time equals more strength and muscle. It's that simple. And it's covers some myths here that everyone's probably heard as well. Anything popular that shows too good to be true, there's always going to be a counter kind of culture for that and has to claim some scary stuff. So, no, it does not damage kidneys in healthy individuals. It does not cause harmful water retention. All the retention is intramuscular, so in your muscles, makes them look fuller. We can make them look fuller, but you're not holding water where it could be dangerous, like hypertension, etc. Hair loss not replicated in studies at all, and like I said, it's one of the most researched supplements out there, so we'll definitely know for certain if it caused hair loss for those. So dose 3.3 to 5 grams per day is like an easy rule of thumb, but roughly 0.1 grams per kilo body weight. So I'm floating around 90 kilos at the moment. So I'll be around 9 grams per day. However, I just do a heaping scoop of some
Yeah.
creatine.
A heaped teaspoon that's quite heaped is close to 10.
Yeah.
And that's what I roughly take. If it's 8 to 10, you're hitting the mark. That's all good. I think the big thing from the water retention perspective is women often are scared to take creatine because of the water retention advice some people spruik online. And I think the big thing here is even if you do see some water retention, even with the loading protocol, it only lasts 30 days before it returns to normal anyway. So it's important for that to be educated to the not only the public but also the people that you're seeing in person, so that they know that it's temporary. It's not going to just automatically just mean weight gain.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's temporary. And also, if you want to touch on the loading phase, it's not even essential. If you heard the loading phase of doing 20 grams per day for about a week or 10 days, you can do it. It can potentially speed up the creatine saturation phase, but you could also just do the 3 to 5 grams per day or 0.1 grams per kilo body weight per day, long term, no cycling off, etc. And you'll get to that saturation stage. And I don't really understand what the rush would be to trying to get the saturation when you kind of consider taking this rest of your life. You got no rush. You can enjoy the rest of
Yeah.
your life doing it.
Exactly. I don't understand it either because it's something you're going to take daily for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's
And you don't need to speed the process up. And a lot of people will complain of GI discomfort if they do take a loading phase of 15 to 20 grams per day. And, even if they're going to bump it up closer to the sort of 8 to 10 grams per day, always it's not the worst option to start at 3 to 5. And then you can always build it up from there and see how you cope.
Mhm. Yeah. And I've noticed a lot of clients that did the loading phase and they hear about the water retention, but really
Hmm.
they've got GI symptoms and they've got the bloating from the GI from the loading and they think that's the water retention symptom. Like, no, that's completely different. That's the GI issues, the digestive issues coming through with loading creatine. And like, yeah, definitely. I wouldn't even recommend loading. I'd say five, like
Yeah,
start with the 3 to 5 grams, see if you can tolerate it. And then if you're someone that's me or Andrew's weight, then you can kind of add maybe a heaping scoop and see if you can tolerate it. It's the same as adding any other new food or supplement to your day. You can't just expect you to start slamming it and your body not to react. It's
yeah,
the same, and all these supplements I want to quickly underline is anything you add into your your routine. Don't do it on game day or performance day. You're adding in a whole nother variable of discomfort or something that can go wrong. So I don't want you to, the research says all this performance benefits. Just don't add it. Like you want to be mimicking stuff on training before you use it on training day or game day. You want to know exactly how it sits with you and how much to have and the timing, etc.
I think the big thing with creatine as well is people stress about when to take it. It doesn't matter. Just take it every single day.
Hmm.
You know, there's no need to take it just before you train or just after you train. There's going to be no effect doing that. And that's no better than just taking it daily at a random time during the day. So take it. I typically just take it in the afternoon because I know that I'll typically have like a smoothie bowl or a shake or something like that, and I'll throw it in that. You
Hmm.
can put it in a coffee, you can put it in some water and just scull it. Just get into the routine of doing it.
Yeah, I'm pretty hardcore with it. I keep it next to my sink in my bathroom, and I just don't recommend this doing this either. Do as I say, do as I do. I dry scoop it, and then I
Do
add.
you really?
Yeah, I literally because I hate.
You fully raw dog it. That's disgusting.
So what I do is right next to before I brush my teeth and floss and everything, I just dry scoop it, smash them all down,
Mate,
and then I brush my teeth after, so I completely forget about it once I flush.
turn it up.
I
That is
know it's
ridiculous.
wild. I don't
Don't
recommend
do
doing
that.
that.
That's not a good idea.
If someone chokes and creatine, don't blame me. It's
Oh.
don't do what I do. I just
Yeah,
know I hate it I hate the texture in my like drinks, and people would
yeah,
not
that's fair.
understand it. It's a sandy weird thing,
It
and
is a kind of because it doesn't really dissolve that much. I
yeah,
swish it around in some water sometimes if I'm just sculling it and, put a little bit of water and just bang, like as it's still swirling, smash it. But like in yogurt or something like that,
yeah.
you can't really feel it that much in terms of that sort of granular texture, I don't think. The other thing to discuss here is the types of creatine.
Hmm.
Creatine monohydrate is king and it always will be. Don't get sucked into all this bullshit marketing online.
Yeah. Creatine is one of the cheapest supplements out there, and if it's not cheap, they're just trying to sell it for some fancy bullshit type. It's
Yeah,
it's so cheap, you shouldn't be worrying about it in terms of like those real expensive ones that have some claim of being better absorption or some
yeah,
bullshit. It's probably got
yeah.
weird flavorings and other addition stuff to it.
And when it goes, and if you're talking about different brands of creatine and different companies that make it, it doesn't matter because creatine monohydrate is the chemical compound. It's just the same shit. So you don't need to spend a fortune on it. So find creatine monohydrate from a brand that's reputable, but you don't have to spend an absolute fortune on this brand of
Agreed.
creatine monohydrate that's super expensive. It's no different.
Agreed. Yep. And I guess there's actually more evidence coming around with creatine and cognition. Especially people under stress, sleep deprivation, or vegan or vegetarian diets. Vegan, vegetarian diets because there's creatine found in protein sources like steak naturally. That's what it comes from. But supplementation obviously is better because it's very hard to get from meat sources. But yeah, there is shown benefit cognition wise, and I promise you, to be much more research and findings coming over the next 5 to 10 years on cognition as well, with creatine and long-term effects as well. Next one, the top one, the tier one would be caffeine. Technically a supplement. Um, One of the most effective performance enhancers we have. Um, it works by blocking the adenosine receptors and adenosine builds up during the day and makes us feel tired. Caffeine blocks that signal, which it makes you feel alert. This also helps with lowers our perceived effort during training, improves strength, endurance, and overall power output. And the ranges for dosage would be 3 to 6 milligrams per kilo body weight. that is pretty high. And I definitely would recommend floating around the 3 mark to start with, and even below that. 6 is very high if you're comparing someone that's my weight or even 100 kilos, that's 600 milligrams, which is very high. Um,
Yeah. One thing on that, I think it's important to find the sweet spot that you can tolerate and you still get benefit. And this is more from a performance standpoint we're talking. So, me being 90 kilos, I would be upwards of 300 milligrams. I don't need that.
mhm,
Absolutely not. For me to feel really good, I probably only need it closer to 200. And I don't really like to have much more than that because the dose is just too high,
mhm,
especially if it's getting sort of in later in the morning. I think it affects my sleep a little bit. I can probably nocebo myself a little bit with that, I think. But at the same time, I find that I don't need as much as the 3 to 6 milligrams per kilo personally for the gym-based stuff. However, if I was playing elite level sport, would I be more pedantic with this? Potentially.
Yeah, and that's the key part here is you don't want to be over like stimulated from the caffeine where you get that over arousal and anxiety feeling because your time reaction and everything else will drop, your panic state will also rise, and your performance will just be impeded from that. And this goes back to you want to know exactly what amount you want to do before game day or race day. You want to know exactly what you're having beforehand. You don't want to play around with having an extra lot of it because you heard it's better for you to have 6 milligrams per kilo. You could be so anxious that you're terrible on the game day. Also, some GI distress can also happen from caffeine in high amounts. I also want to kind of touch on tolerance does build quickly with caffeine. So I would use this. So, for example, if you do use this for game day and you're an athlete, or even you have, run max testing every 6 weeks or a month. For example, I only need a coffee before training, which is literally around, or obviously depending on how many shots of coffee in it, but it's ranging from 90 to 150 to 160 milligrams, which is well below my 3 milligrams per kilo. Um, and that's all I need before training for my kind of alert and performance benefits.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same when it comes to lifting weights. But I think when it comes to something that's higher level,
Hmm.
going a little bit more for me definitely helps.
Yep.
Or double dosing it where I'd have sort of, say for instance, something like tennis or something like that. I'd have some in the morning before I play, but I'll also have some just prior to going and playing. So I've had two doses within sort of the few hours before it.
And that's a great way of doing it because you can kind of test how you're feeling from the first dose. And if it kind of hits, and it does take 30 to 60 minutes before it has its true effects. And if you get to that 30 to 60 minutes, you're like, oh, I'm feeling good, but I could actually do a bit more. That's a perfect opportunity. You could actually have more. And then you could, you're not risking it at all because caffeine does hit different on different days, depending how much food you had the night before, how much food on your stomach currently, all those things. So I guess when it comes to examples, and given my day, for example, when I train, having like a 2 shot coffee before training. This is when I train, not in afternoons. I don't take any caffeine at all in the afternoons. I could have that amount of caffeine most sessions, and I consistently feel good enough to train from that. But for example, if I had 1 rep max testing or, game of tennis or I'm competing in some sort set event, every particular month on that event, I would then maybe do what Andrew does and double it, maybe have that coffee 90 minutes beforehand and see how I feel. If I'm still feeling like before I can do a bit more of a heavy dose, I will do another dose.
Yeah.
And that could really utilize, you're not building that high tolerance and you're not trying to abuse that really high caffeine intake every day because you'll just adapt to that and then you'll need, 3 doses before training to get that effect.
Yeah.
Um,
I think one thing to note as well is caffeine's not giving you energy per se. It's improving how alert and how awake you feel because of the blocking of the adenosine receptors. I think
yeah.
that's important. It doesn't give you energy. It's not like you're just having this. And I think this is probably a product of how it's marketed with energy drinks. People think they're getting energy from it,
Mhm.
but you're not getting energy from it. It's because of the alertness and the feeling of being awake. That's the reason why it helps.
Absolutely. And if you're abusing the caffeine in the afternoons, if you're training in the afternoons like I do, and you're starting to rely on caffeine before training, you're building a cycle where, caffeine affects the quality of sleep you get until it runs out of it, and it's got a half-life up to 10 to 12 hours on caffeine. And even that half-life in your system, if you're having a very high dose, you could be having 200 milligrams in your system for a half-life while you're trying to sleep. You're not going to be able to access deep sleep or REM sleep, regenerative sleep until that caffeine's gone. So you're not regenerating and you're not getting that recovery benefits from sleep until that's gone. And if you're starting to have a caffeine in the afternoons, you're going to feel like you need more caffeine the next day because of the less sleep. And you're building a cycle, you're just smacking caffeine and you need it to get through the day, and then you're still not getting that regenerative sleep at night, so you need more caffeine. So I see this all the time, and honestly, I've probably been through this myself during uni and working nights, and just before I understood it more, and I'm wondering why am I so tired? And then I'm just relying on caffeine to even feel somewhat normal throughout the day, and I see it all the time.
Well, it's kind of like chicken or the egg kind of thing, isn't it? You get tired and then you're using the caffeine to deal with the tiredness.
Hmm.
And then the fact that you're using so much caffeine's then negatively impacting your sleep, and then you're getting tired because of that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I typically try not to have any caffeine after 12.
Yeah, it's a good rule of thumb to have. I mean, some people, it's tough, shift work, etc. And you could do a whole podcast on strategies for that. And I'd actually recommend seeing a dietitian for that because it's so different to everyone.
Agreed.
Um, but good rule of thumb for most people's schedules is before 12. I mean, I cut it off before 2 p.m. I notice that's fine for me. I don't really have mega doses anyway. If I'm having something after 12, it's probably just one single shot of coffee or something. So that's usually fine. Okay, tier two. So it's kind of situational, given what your goals are, etc. So fish oil, krill oil. So omega-3s are very beneficial. They support heart health, reduce inflammation, and support overall just health. Eating fatty fish appears to be stronger cardiovascular benefits than taking fish oil capsules. If you eat fatty fish, being salmon, things like that, 2 to 3 times per week, you probably don't need supplementation given how much you're having in that serve. If you don't, then taking 2 to 3 grams of combined EPA and DHA per day can be beneficial. But supplements should uh, only supplement the gaps and should not replace real food, as all these supplements are really.
Do you
Jeff,
take it?
I do take it mainly because I don't have any fatty fish. I don't have any fish at all, actually.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd probably have fish maybe once a week, max twice, and I don't supplement. I never really have, to be fair. I've gone through phases over the years.
Mhm.
Because you've put it into tier two, how important do you think it is for someone like me that may be only getting, say, one fatty fish meal per week?
I think it's an amazing topic, and we could do a whole podcast on this. And this is kind of goes into the range of the clinical side of things as well in general health. It's does have anti-inflammatory effects, which help with performance to some extent, but also general cognition and energy. But what I have noticed, and this is just me nerding out on my own body, is that what a consistency for me is I never had fatty fish really ever. So I was never really getting that source. And I did my blood work looking at my cholesterol, HDL, and LDL. HDL being like the healthy cholesterol, and LDL being low, like the unhealthy cholesterol, to put it simply. And I compared my bloods before taking fish oils and like never had before, and then taking it for a good 6 months, and my HDL, my healthy cholesterol, improved. I wouldn't say dramatically, but it definitely did improve, and my LDL, my bad cholesterol, low like went down.
Was
They weren't.
that the only thing that you really did in that 6 months that was different in terms of diet?
Yeah, definitely in terms of fatty fish or getting omega-3 source. Yes, absolutely. I wasn't also incorporating any fatty fish whatsoever.
Did you lose
Uh,
weight in that period of time?
no, I mean, I definitely could have done more of a controlled study on myself.
Yeah.
And you need it for a good study and find good results. And anecdata is so different to data you see in studies, but this is anecdata for me, just because I'm nerding out on my interests and my own body. Um, there could have been a byproduct of some weight. I definitely should have tracked my weight throughout the whole process. I didn't, but my weight generally stays around a consistent around like that time period. I wasn't bulking or cutting at that time phase.
Yeah, anecdotal evidence like that is still relevant and it's
Yeah,
still good
anecdata is
to,
still data. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And I did notice cholesterol benefits. Didn't take note of any anti-inflammatory benefits at all I could think of. I think taking it a longer period of time is also better. 6 months isn't a long time to compare
Yeah.
things, but my own interest I always wanted to see. So, answer your question is how, beneficial is it? Given your budget, the reason I didn't put in tier one is because if you had a set amount of money you had to spend per month on supplementation and it wasn't a high budget, I wouldn't recommend it at all. But if you have the money there and money's not an issue and you can kind of spend money on some supplements, it would be a tier two kind of supplementation I would consider after, if your diet is controlled, you don't like fatty fish, and you never kind of can consistently get 2 to 3 serves per week.
Yeah.
And it's different if, you like it, but you don't get it regularly. And you're like, oh yeah, I had it, once this month and twice last month. That's not consistent. So I guess if that's a reality for you, like it is for myself, I don't enjoy fatty fish. I don't buy it. I also find it more expensive to get salmon than it is to get the supplementation. So, I mean, it actually can be more cost effective to get it from supplementation if you don't love salmon or fatty fish or krill.
Is
Um,
there, with people that live in Australia, is there a brand that you typically go to for your fish oil or krill oil? And that's something we need to touch on, the krill oil.
um, Look, I get mine with Momentous, which is not even an Australian brand. So to tell you Australian brand, I'm not sure. I can do some research and provide it in the show notes.
Yep.
But I get mine from Momentous, which is collaboration outside of
Yeah.
Australia.
And
Uh,
from a dosage perspective, for most people, if they aren't eating fatty fish,
yeah, so 2 to 3 grams per day.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's a 2,000, 3,000 milligrams.
And if do you think if, say, for instance, I'm having fish once a week, would
Mhm.
that change the dosage because I've already getting one feeding per week of the fatty fish? That would reduce the dosage of the fish oil
I'd,
I need to take, do you think? Or would
I'd
just
probably I'd probably just go to the lower range.
the
So
two?
yeah, so 2 to 3, I'll
Okay.
just go in for two. Yeah, but I get 3 a day, 3 grams a day,
Okay.
consistent. Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe it's time for me to do a bit of a study on myself and start to do that
Mm,
per day, have the th 2 to 3 grams per day. I'll do some bloods now, bloods in 6 months and bloods in 12 months and go
yeah.
from there. And I'll try not to change things too much outside of that.
But it's a good aspect. I wanted you like it's good you thought about, weight loss can also help with cholesterol levels and
Exactly.
blood
Yep.
pressure and cardiovascular health as a whole. Losing body weight, especially if you're overweight, or you're losing adipose tissue, fat tissue. That is also another indicator of getting cardiovascularly healthy. So obviously, if I did lose a couple of kilos of fat during that time period, that also would help my cholesterol, blood
Yes.
blood sugar levels, etc. Yeah. Next one, tier two, be vitamin D3. So more relevant for people that work indoors, train indoors, live in a lower sunlight climate, or work like myself, work in a hospital a lot of the time. Don't really get sunlight, especially in winter when the sun's like going down at 5 p.m. Could be much more beneficial. If you're getting direct sunlight for more than 15 minutes a day, you probably don't need it of like pretty good sunlight. Even cloudy days, maybe 30 minutes a day. But I mean, first thing before even just like considering vitamin D3 is getting your blood done. You can see
Exactly.
vitamin D levels easily if they're low, supplement. So between doses of 1,000 to 4,000 IUs daily, depending on levels. Yeah, don't guess, test first, and then take it if you need it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's become a bit of a trend because people see this online, people taking all these supplements, and there's people out there like that Brian Johnson dude that's tried to optimize his life so he's going to live like a vampire until he's 150. And you don't need to supplement. Remember, a supplement is supplementing. You don't need to supplement if everything's a-okay.
Hmm.
So this is the reason why you need to go to your GP, get a blood test, because if you're just adding things in you don't need to add, well, you're effectively just wasting money.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And in Australia as well, especially in summer and even on the shoulder seasons, in places like Sydney or further north, or really pretty much anywhere in Australia, you probably don't need to if you're going outside regularly or you've got a really well lit house. You don't need to supplement with vitamin D3, but still go to your GP and get tested if you want. but it is an interesting one in winter for people that live indoors more. They work indoors, even in Australia, because you'll get in the middle of June, July, even if you check the UV on one of the apps, say Bomb or something like that, the UV won't say it's bad enough to wear sunscreen.
Mhm.
So in winter, for someone like myself that's walking up to the clinic and back, probably getting maybe 30 minutes of sunlight per day in winter, still wearing sunscreen, do you think it would be important for me to look at the D3 supplementation and
Mhm.
get a blood test to check it? Or do you think I would be getting enough? Hard to say.
First of all, I think everyone should get their blood test every year anyway.
Yeah.
And that should be one of the things you just test for. And, if you want to make it so it kind of aligns with winter, you get it tested every winter. And that's the only best way of checking. But yes, I would consider, especially myself, I do consider it and I get my bloods done during winter, especially if like when I'm working at the hospital. And I know for a fact I'm barely getting any sunlight, especially if it's a rainy day and I don't even eat my lunch outside. I for sure am not getting any sunlight that day, and I know for a fact. So I get my bloods done around that time and I supplement accordingly if I need. Same thing everyone. But yeah, if you have that suspected kind of lack of sun in winter, test. It's the first thing to do. I wouldn't
It,
supplement without testing.
it's great advice. One more thought on that. If I spent 2 days a week outside a lot, so say for instance, I went out and played golf twice a week, I'm outside for 5 hours, but the other 5 days a week, I'm an office worker and I sit down inside.
Hmm.
It's not very well lit. I go from house to car to office and it's in the middle of winter. Obviously, you'd still go to the GP
Hmm.
and get a blood test done, but do you think if you have more sunlight on a few days, that makes up for a lack of sunlight on the others?
Same as all the supplements, consistency is key with all these. So, and if you're not taking supplement, your source of vitamin D is from the sun. Same with creatine, same with fish oil. If you want to get that fish oil amount, you can't just smash salmon, you know, once a fortnight and hope that you're going to get enough. If it's not consistently most days, you're probably not going to be getting it in a good amount. So if you're sun
Yeah,
maxing, UV maxing for, one day a week, you're really just laying in the sun for 10 hours.
yeah. You're sun gazing.
Your sun gazing. I also don't recommend that for a sun like skin care and safety. But also if you're just trying to get all the vitamin D and for one day in that 1 month or whatever it is, it's definitely not going to work once a week even.
Yep. Well
Uh,
answered, mate.
yeah.
Let's go on to a couple of the other tier two supplements and then we'll finish up with the tier three and let's make it reasonably succinct in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, oof. Glide through the rest. So last tier two one would be magnesium. So magnesium plays a role in over 300 enzymatic reactions. So it helps with muscle contraction, relaxation, sleep, and energy production in general. So forms kind of matter as well. So avoid magnesium oxide. It's kind of poorly absorbed. So prefer glycinate or um, bisglycinate. Can't even pronounce these tough.
They're
Uh,
tough, those ones. Glycinate and bicyclinate.
um,
Glycinate. Shocking.
so they help with bioavailability as well. So kind of tier two, if you're not getting it, I'd say I don't take it myself. So I mean it's a tier two, but kind of leading to tier three. It can help with sleep. My brother takes it and he thinks he notices a thing. So I mean if it's, legit or placebo, it still works either way.
Again, going to your GP to get a blood test here,
Yeah,
Charlie.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing for magnesium as well. And then quickly going through tier three, so mostly overhyped or particular scenarios where it's beneficial. First one, BCAAs. If you're getting a total, so branched chain amino acids. So if you're getting enough of your total protein in the day of good protein sources from, whey protein, steaks, or complete protein sources, or amino acids, um, it's not recommended. And also, if they claim to be 0 calorie, they do provide energy. Branched chain amino acids do have energy contained. So if you're hitting a daily target of protein, these aren't recommended, or I don't take it. Don't know one person that takes it and notices anything.
Yeah.
Next one.
They're very well marketed. That's one thing. A
Yeah,
lot of people think that they're beneficial when they just aren't. And they're literally just wasting money.
yeah.
If someone was vegan and they weren't taking a complete protein powder and they were getting their protein intake from other incomplete protein sources, BCAAs would be an okay option.
hmm But I also wouldn't recommend spending money on that. Seems very deliberate that you're not getting complete protein sources
Mm,
during a vegan diet. I don't recommend doing a vegan diet if you're not doing it anyway. So it's a
yep.
very like stretched hypothetical, and I'd rather spend that money on a complete vegan protein source like True Protein than having a BCAAs.
Well, yeah, that's really well answered, and I think that's really important to get across to the listeners. It just seems like you're throwing your money down the drain, and I see so many people buy these products and they just don't need them.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Usually they taste like lolly water and
Yeah.
so pre-workouts, it's pretty much just caffeine, beta-alanine, and flavoring. Some have some pump enhancers, etc., which we'll cover. So yes, I mean it's does contain caffeine, correct? It could be very high dose. A lot of them are. So I look at the dose number one, but you're better off just getting it from, a coffee, which is cheaper than pre-workout. However, I do notice there's some people that don't like coffee and they get a good pre-workout where it's a good caffeine amount. It's not crazy high. They know they enjoy having it. It's part of the ritual in the morning to have their pre-workout on the way to gym. It keeps them consistent. It makes them get, placebo or not, it gets them organized and gets them ready for the gym and they consistently go and pre-workout helps with that. So be it. That's something that's still net positive. And some pre-workouts aren't terribly expensive. They are still more expensive than, getting instant coffee or, you know, something like that. But I definitely would still take tier three because it's like there's no secret in the pre-workout that you can't just get from caffeine.
Yeah, agreed. And don't spend a fortune on it as well, and do the math on how much per dose it is, because you could actually just get a Monster or a V or something like that as well and buy them in bulk, and that's a lot cheaper than the pre-workout. That's another option if you wanted to get something that isn't a coffee, because some people just don't like coffee.
Yep, agreed. Next one, beta-alanine. So kind of it's also in a lot of pre-workouts, gives that weird tingling feeling.
I hate
Um,
that feeling.
yeah,
It feels like you're itchy. I hate
yeah,
it.
it's terrible. I
It
hate it.
sucks.
It's also if you're new to a pre-workout, you're new to beta-alanine, that's when the itchiness feeling happens most.
Yeah.
That also does go down if you do take it in the right instructions, like I'm about to say. So beta-alanine increases muscle carnosine levels, which help improve performance in high intensity efforts lasting 60 to 240 seconds. So that's like high rocks, CrossFit training, style training, repeated sprints, high rep sets, etc. So it's not powerlifting, it's not short maximal lifts. And it's need to be taken daily, kind of like creatine. Doesn't matter if you take it before, like you don't need to take it pre-workout. It's in a lot of pre-workouts. Doesn't mean you need to take it then. Some people like the itchy feeling. It's the same as placebo, like that feeling of tingling kind of associated with caffeine intake and energy and stuff like that. However, if you do take it in the correct dosage every day, you won't, the tingling feeling will go down and it can help with, endurance side of things as well. Um,
It, I I'm on the fence with beta-alanine, and I think it would be potentially beneficial for some populations, but I think a lot of people would say start taking that and they're not optimizing everything else like their sleep and nutrition. But if someone has optimized everything else and they're trying to squeeze that last little bit out of the lemon, and they do exercise sessions, or they do compete in exercise that lasts that sort of 60 to 20, 240 seconds or more, would you start to dabble in that?
Yeah, look, it's really like supplementation's already in the top pyramid like section after,
Mm.
sleep, nutrition, like if your training's on point, all those things. And then you have supplementation, and then you have, tier three on top of that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really if you're confident you're optimizing everything else and then you have like your caffeine's perfect. This is really the only point of time when like you're a really competitive athlete and this is literally like your job. You control all aspects every single day and you have the money to spend, or you're getting promoted or sponsored by these products.
Mm.
And I mean, why not, right? Like you may as well you're looking at less than 1% performance enhancement here, but there is research that supports it. So look, if it's tested and using the right products and it's not going to get you done in sport, etc., look, give it a shot. I don't take it at all. I hate the feeling of it. Also, I just don't find worth the money to try and do all these things.
Well, that's the other thing with it, right? If you take all of these supplements that
Yeah.
people talk about online, all of a sudden you're spending so much money every day on supplements. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. Next one, citrulline malate. So evidence is quite mixed with this. Older studies show some potential benefits. However, more recent research shows that has no I can't even speak this
Ergogenic.
ergogenic effects. A lot of tough words today. Um, if it does work, it's around 8 grams of before pre-workout, like before working out, and it's about an hour before, and it is mixed. This is like same as beta-alanine, like. Look, you really like a lot of pre-workouts are going to have caffeine, citrulline malate, a mixed blend of malate stuff as well, like kind of the pump enhancement stuff, beta-alanine and caffeine. I usually have a mixed. A lot of them probably aren't in like properly dosed as well, so the benefits aren't even going to be there. And all the pre-workouts that do have it well dosed are probably going to be so expensive. They could probably
Mm,
taste like taste terrible. You're gonna need 3 scoops of it to get all the right dosage. We're scratching the bottom of the barrel here about getting this stuff. I
agreed.
want to mention it, and I think it's very important for me that there's a reason I add this stuff in tier threes, so people know. If we didn't mention this, people are gonna think, oh yeah, no, like they didn't want to mention it, but they kind of just might have skipped over it. I'm intentionally including this to show that it is tier three, not tier one or two. I'm intentionally, mentioning this because some people will still look at this and go, yeah, I'm going to get a crazy pump before training. It's only got 2 grams of citrulline malate in it, this pre-workout they take, etc. I did also want to quickly touch on beetroot juice, not really a supplement, but you can get supplement things like this. It contains inorganic nitrate, so not the same as processed meat nitrates. This is naturally occurring in plants. Typically doses around 300 to 600 milligrams of nitrates is shown for benefits in exercise, around the 400 mark shown most. It just happens, it causes vasodilation and reduces oxygen cost in exercise. This is particularly good in low oxygen conditions or high intensity exercise or when fatiguing of muscles. So it's just good for like during intense efforts, last like late in the race, if you're doing marathon running, etc. Or in altitude or repeated sprints. Same thing as citrulline malate, like tier three here. I do take a supplement for this, which contains a good around, it contains like a beetroot juice in powder form. It does contain citrulline malate. It's not in the right doses on research, but I love the taste of it. It's cheap for me, and I just love to add it to my smoothies. It has like a nice little berry, has some antioxidants in it as well.
Mm.
I take it. I think it's mainly placebo effect. I love the taste of it also, but I do take it every day, and it's something I do because I don't know, started taking it when I bought it once, and I kind of liked it and just kept having it, and it's not that expensive for me, so that's my own kind of decision. And sometimes, like I said, with the way I take my creatine, do as I say, don't do as I do. Some things people do things not reflective on research, but they do it anecdata wise. They feel good taking it. They like the taste of it. Same with pre-workouts versus coffee versus, any drinks. If you enjoy pre-workouts more than a normal coffee, then do it. There's obviously pros and cons to both. You can weigh that up. Quickly skipping over the last thing, reflect like on time. Psychology and supplements. So supplements often work because they reinforce identity. So I buy creatine, I feel committed, I train harder. Yes, creatine can have byproduct, some effects, very small effects. Like we said, it's the top of the pyramid here. but maybe your identity changes a little bit when you start spending money on it as well. So maybe you're sleeping a bit better, you're eating a bit more consistently, more better nutrition. All those things kind of reinforce, that supplementation you're having on top. So, you're gonna notice some effects because you might be changing your identity to be a healthier individual for that. And that's not supplementation, that's psychology as well, and also, behavior change around that.
Exactly. Well, it's correlation data, right? It's
Yeah,
when people talk about ice baths and saunas and all these type of things being so beneficial for their health. But the reason why they're typically feeling better is because they're coupling those things with all the other amazing things they're doing with better nutrition. They're training more, they're training harder, they're lifting weights, they're sleeping better. It's correlation data.
absolutely. It's the same as, when you mentioned when I was taking the omega-3s and did that my own little study on myself. Maybe I did kind of eat a bit cleaner during that time, for cleaner for lack of a better word. Maybe I did lose a bit of weight during that time period because, I was mentally taking that capsules every day. I was like, wow, I'm excited to see the results in, 6 months of what see the difference would be. And maybe I did other things throughout the day I didn't even notice I was doing, training a bit harder, maybe doing a couple more steps throughout the day. Those
Exactly.
things can also help with, body recomp. Maybe I was kind of losing a bit of fat adipose tissue during that time, which also could help with my cholesterol. So it's
Yeah.
a bit of data from other things, aspects happening. And then also placebo effect in sport, so changing performance. So placebo is a thing, but it can't be confused with physiology. So placebo can actually be, if I take this beetroot blend supplement I do take, and I do notice, benefits are high energy, and I like the taste of it, and I take it consistently with my smoothie every day, and I feel good having it. I still feel good having it. So some things like that are worth considering as well when.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I really think the most important thing to get across here is you want to focus on the tier ones. You want to optimize things outside of that with your training, nutrition, sleep,
Yeah.
and you don't want to major in the minors, which is the tiers two and three. And
Mm.
you can always add in the twos and threes if needed. But the big thing here is as well, get a blood test. Go to your GP, get a blood test. There's no point adding stuff in that you do not need because then you are wasting money.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, I guess ask yourself, is my diet consistent first? Is it, see a dietitian if you need to, it doesn't have to be me. Am I hitting my protein targets? Am I training properly for your goals? Am I sleeping well? Is it evidence-based? We kind of covered that in in this podcast also. And if it's not, don't worry about it. Control other things first before you even consider even creatine. Don't consider it until your diet's on track, until your sleep's on track. There's no point.
Yeah, agreed. If you want to delve further into the science behind supplements, shameless plug, Your Body Bible on the Wild Physio Fitness website will answer all of your questions when it comes to strength training, exercise, nutrition, supplements. We're going to be releasing the latest update, most likely in about 6 weeks, maybe less. And the update has doubled the size of the book. So it's gone from 168 A4 pages up to 330, I think it is, roughly. So it's a big whopper of a book and it will answer every question you've got. And it dives into each of these supplements that we have talked about today. And it also has, it is in our opinion, it has the research articles and the meta-analyses and everything that we quote.
Hmm.
It's listed in your body Bible. So it is your Bible for the rest of your life to refer back to when it comes to these type of questions you have around exercise, nutrition, etc.
Yeah. And all written by health professionals as well, not just
Yes,
online coaches.
indeed, indeed.
Very good. Anything else you want to add before we close it out?
No, there's other things that we could dive into that people potentially want to know in the supplement world, like multivitamins, testosterone, melatonin, fat burning supplements,
Hmm.
etc. But I think for today, let's leave it there. I think for the listeners out there, if they've come this far and they're at the end of the podcast, please reach out to us if you would like us to delve into more detail around one of the supplements, or you want us to dive into some of the ones I just mentioned, or even mention steroids as well and the effect of steroids,
Mm-hmm.
peptides, collagen. There's other things that we can dive into. So potentially we do a 2.0 on supplements and dive into those supplements I just mentioned and go from there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely ask questions or, list things you want to hear in the next one on supplementation. We could even go into more detail on the tier ones, whatever people want, we will do. So
Yeah, sounds good. Mate, it was great. You're a wealth of knowledge, and I got a lot out of that personally. Obviously, you and I work together closely, and you've written and helped me write a lot of Your Body Bible in the nutrition dietetics section of the book. So I think that resource is just a phenomenal resource, not only for us as health professionals, but for the general public, because I feel like it's been well written to the point where people can drag out the information that they need without being overawed by too much information, too much research.
absolutely. I'm very excited for it to come out. And I've learnt so much like writing the book as well with you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll do it again soon in the next few weeks. And as usual, stay strong.